Hi, everyone. Welcome to Empowered Expression, my podcast. I have the most amazing guest today to talk to and to share with you. Her name is Michelle Lee. I'm going to put my glasses on because I've got all these. She's got the most fabulous introduction ever. So not only is she the woman who rode 2 oceans solo, non-stop and unassisted, she's the most amazing woman who has conquered so many things for herself and women in the world. To do something like that, you've got to be in the top physical fitness, top mental fitness, top emotional fitness. She's smashed world records. She's the first woman in the world to row the Pacific Ocean nonstop, and she survived more than 300 days alone on board. So please welcome Michelle Lee to talk to us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Suzi.
You are. You just blown away that at your age for doing what you did. And I'm reading stuff about rowing, and you kind of, you've done triathlons and you conquered triathlons. The thing that I thought about when I was reading about you is, God, she must have really strong knees. and then you read a book about rowing, and it inspired you so much to not just learn how to row, but to learn how to build a boat, to learn how to conquer the sport. And you decided to drop in and do the ocean, not just like a little river for something. What was your inspiration for doing that? You do mention that you came out of a relationship, and having done that myself out of a 30-year marriage, I'm doing things for myself now that I didn't do then. So I'd love to hear your story. What was your inspiration to be a rower apart from the book?
Yeah, it was as simple as that. It was, I read the book called Rowing the Atlantic, and it plagued me so consistently and persistently for 2 years that I thought, if I don't do this, I'm going to die wondering. So I was not a rower, not an Olympian, not elite, not an athlete, but I wanted what that girl had. So thanks, Ross Savage, and everyone, just be careful what you read. I issue a warning now, because, she just had everything that could go wrong went wrong. So it wasn't a story of, rainbows and butterflies and, everything's, peachy out there. But she overcame everything. And that's what I got out of it. And I just thought, man, every time she got knocked down and got up, I was like literally doing a fist pump, like, you go, girl, and I thought, man, I want that. So I'm not the most creative or imaginative person in the world, so I thought I'll just copy you. And the fact that I was not a rower, completely irrelevant. I was not brought up an adventurer or on the ocean, but all as I knew was I loved the ocean. I am drawn to it naturally. I love adventure. I love freedom. So, I was ticking all these boxes, and I just thought, now all I've got to do is get a boat. Well, that was not that easy. There were none for sale in Australia. They're very, ocean rowing boats are a specifically designed vessel. So, that then led me down the path of building my own boat. So, you're sort of turning your hand from massage therapist to now boat builder. And I'm sure I was a pain in their butt, but every weekend I'd turn up with my overalls on, and I'm like, all right, what am I going to do today? Sanding, feathering, fairing, grinding, you name it. And I know that boat intimately. I know every single bulkhead. I know every space under that deck, which gave me so much confidence in my vessel. And also it got me on the tools, so I got familiar with using the epoxies and the material. I realized how strong my boat is through doing that boat build, and, just watching how the materials set. And then, the dude making my boat, he's saying, try and break it, so we do everything he could to break the panel. So that's how, I know how strong carbon fiber is, and it's, what goes on beneath there. It's part of, for me, it was essential to know that boat that well when you're stuck out there in the middle of an ocean and you got no one else to rely on except yourself. That's it. You don't put your hand up and, someone just comes to your aid. So it was critical for me to get involved at the root, level.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To have that knowledge that you can build your own boat, that you know how it works, that you know any faults in it, if there are any weaknesses, and to know that that material is going to withstand hitting those waves or anything else that gets thrown at it in the ocean. That, unless you've been out there, you don't really know. I mean, the Titanic sank, didn't it? And you're in a much smaller boat. That's really, I used to be a massage therapist as well for years, and I love using tools. I'm exceptionally handy, and that's another thing we have in common. See, when I my relationship with my husband years and years ago, he came with an iron and I came with a toolkit. So, I understand wanting to get the power of getting on the tools and using the tools and knowing how all your epoxies and your resins and everything work, and knowing the strength makes absolute perfect sense to me. If you're going to set out somewhere by yourself, you've got to have faith in your vessel,
Yeah.
But what made you decide to go and do this? What did you need to overcome, or what did you need to prove to yourself, for yourself, that you needed to do this?
Oh, yeah. I'm fascinated with human potential. I am absolutely fascinated with our limits, and which means you have to push boundaries. There's no way that you're going to become familiar with what you're capable of when you stay in the confines of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You have no idea what you're capable of. And, it started small. I didn't just wake up and say I'm going to row an ocean. It started with the triathlons, it started with the hiking, and, one thing leads to another. Of course, you always want a little bit bigger, a little bit better, because you are constantly looking for new ground. It's addictive. So there's another warning, everybody. It is addictive. Once you start, you just want to know what else you can do. You think, oh, well, if I can do that, well, what else is there? What have I left in the tank? So that's what I'm fascinated by, and I'm driven by that, to row the Pacific Ocean. I found myself on, halfway through the Atlantic row, saying things like, now if I was to row another ocean, and, I'd started making a list of the things I would do differently, with lessons learned and things that you couldn't possibly know till you're thrown in the deep end and you're out there. So even refining and tweaking my boat, simplifying systems. So I was already making those lists when I was, rowing the Atlantic. So as soon as I made the decision to row the Pacific, I was just like, boom. I had my list. I had my objectives. I was motivated by rowing for freedom. As soon as we went into lockdown, I literally went into meltdown, and I couldn't grasp or accept that we were being locked up. I'm not even sick, it was just so ludicrous and stupid to me in my head. So I used all that energy, and that it fueled me really to get off my ass and do something about it. I could have sat around whinging. I could have stayed locked up, but no, I went off and did my boat. I had things to do. So, I used it as fuel and motivation. It was like the firecracker up my ass to spark action. And, I think Bob Proctor, he says, use your dissatisfied state to get creative. And being in that state of dissatisfaction can be your most empowering, most motivating fuel, and that's what I think I did.
Oh, that's amazing. Bob Proctor has changed the lives of so many, hasn't he, around the world? And I know you listen to Joe Dispenza as well, who I love listening to. And I even looked at the Silver Method, which is another motivational and empowering mindset. Not a course; it's more a way of life, really, that we can learn about. But you have to. I've met people who have done lots of courses, but they don't change their lives, And I met people who like, you were alone on the ocean for a really long time, months, and like 8 months or something, wasn't it? And I met people that can't even stay alone for like a week. They've got to be in contact with people. They've got to be around people, and they really do need to spend time with themselves. I'm really enjoying spending time by myself, with myself in England. And I find that, and you probably found this on a boat, when you spend time by yourself, and you open yourself up to the universe and you open yourself up to your mind, that's when you do your best thinking. Mind you, you were
Oh, yeah.
you put yourself into a physical place where you really had to really think about lots of things. How did you, I looked at, like I said, I've looked at lots of things over the last week that you've been doing, which is just, because I hadn't heard of you before. We were introduced by a mutual acquaintance, Ray. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, thank you.
And I love it that we were talking earlier about how sometimes people just come into your lives and you've got to talk to them. You've got to find out about them. You've got to see well, I do. And you obviously do. You've got to see what makes them tick, because I feel that we all inspire each other on this journey of life that we're on, and to read that you just decided that but you obviously conquered triathlons, you conquered running. You knew that you had physical fitness that was, I would say, not of the same as other 40-something-year-old women, because as we both know, people sometimes use aging as an excuse to stop things, whereas really, and my whole ethos in life is age is just a number. It doesn't stop you doing anything. And when we do hold ourselves back and we use that as an excuse, it can just stop us from doing everything. And if we take the age completely out of the picture, we can do whatever we want, actually. The only thing is, if we have physical limitations, then we can work on them, can't we? So you proved you were physically fit. Now you nailed running, you nailed the triathlete, you loved the ocean, then you decided to get in and row. So did you wait till like lockdown was over? Because Sydney was, I'm in the Gold Coast, so Sydney was a bit stricter. Well, there was Melbourne, then there was Sydney that were pretty strict, and then we were pretty lax, really. Did you wait till like lockdown was over, built your boat, and then went, I'm out of here, and got in the water?
I just pretty much maintained my life during everything. I just did what I had to do. And, I don't have a TV. I don't read a newspaper. I don't listen to a radio. So I just could pretend like I didn't know. What do you mean? What? I could have just pulled ignorance. So, I really did just go about my life and still trained, built the boat, crossed postcodes regularly to get to the boat, because sitting around and that was valuable time that I just couldn't see the sense. Okay, they took my work off me. I couldn't work. All three streams of income were gone. And I thought, nah, fuck you. I've got other shit to do now. You're not stopping me from doing this, because it really made you analyze what are the things that mean the most to you. And so if you want to look for silver linings, for me, it was I went inwards and I just said, oh my God, freedom and adventure. They are it. That's what I'm about. That's, if you take that away from me, I might as well just finish it. You know what I mean? So it was part of my mental coping mechanism was to just be normal and go about my business and to not comply with something that didn't make sense. I trust my immune system, all of this sort of stuff, so it really challenged me to step up and to stand in my conviction, stand strong in my conviction and be the salmon swimming upstream. So, yes, it would have been easier just to comply with step in line, get the jab and all that sort of stuff. Yes, life would have been a lot easier, but I've got to live with myself for the rest of my life. And I was like, no. It just felt so vibrationally wrong. It was a vibration. I felt at the thought of complying, I felt physically ill. So I can't betray that. Our gut feeling, gut instinct, our intuition, whatever you want to call it, to me, you have to honor it because it protects you. It's never wrong, never, ever wrong. And I had to honor it. And, so basically it became Row for Freedom. And it was a lesson. There are many lessons learned along the way. You just sort of sat back and watched human behavior and how easily manipulated everybody is. But I think it's because they watch that shit on TV. I really do. I think that was a massive point of difference. I wasn't subject to that. I didn't listen to it every day, and, that's why I try to encourage people to go inwards more, to get rid of the distractions, get rid of all that noise and clutter that is first world, and spend time. And yes, sometimes it's uncomfortable. Things come up that you don't particularly like. But also it's where the magic happens, it's where you learn the most about yourself, and it's where you can really see what are your values, and play the game of playing that movie in your head of what if my life was, and really like get creative and get no limits, no boundaries. If you could paint that picture perfect world, and then look at, well, what would I have to do to become that? What needs to change? What do I have to ditch? What do I have to adapt and adopt? And, these are the things that I try to impart with everybody, is to just challenge them to go without this for a day, a couple of hours, half a day. And, you see the reaction on people's face when you suggest that. It's like, oh no, you can see them thinking, shit, could I do that?
Oh, absolutely. It's like an addiction. I too am a non-conformist. I didn't conform either. I too lost both careers in 1 week as a hair and makeup artist in film and television. That was taken away, and as a speaker. So public spaces and faces, boom, gone, And I reinvented myself, and I started working as a carer just before that. And that was, so I was driving out, I was going out. I didn't change my life in the slightest. I just zigzagged, looked after people, went out, did the shops. I'd already got used to it. I was already wearing a mask before masks were mandatory. Thought that was dumb too. And I too did the same. And I don't listen to the news either. And I haven't done for a very, very, very long time. I don't have the radio on. The only time I would have friends if something serious was happening, like, hey, Suzi, your borders have just been closed. I'd be like, oh, okay. It'd be my friends that would actually send me a message, because they all know I don't listen to the news. So I have no idea what when you don't. You're not addicted to listening to the doom and gloom, which was very manipulative around that period. And having worked in television for 40 years, I know how manipulative it can be. I know that they tell lies, and it was all so negative. And so I've had that kind of, I like to say, fell down the rabbit hole of listening to the negativity, and it really hurt psychologically. And I'm like, what's going on? Do you tell me what's going on, then I'll hear it from you, because that's more powerful to me. But not listening to the radio. And it was like going through that period, just like you. It was like, oh, well, I'm just going to do what I do. And I'd get in the car, drive up, and it was great. There was no traffic on the road. It was
I know.
And I've had people saying, oh, that they didn't have the jab. And I'm like, yeah, well, when I was 12, I was a conscientious objector about having the German measles injection at school. So this is who I've been my whole life, really. I've always been a non-conformer. So you've changed as an adult. That's really good. I've been like this since I was a kid. My parents had to deal with me, going, no, I'm not standing behind having a jab with everybody else. No, I don't agree with that. I don't feel comfortable. And like you said, trusting your instincts. And I think a lot of people don't realize, especially with having the doom and gloom on all the time, the harm they can do to their children, having this constant negativity in their house, and the energy that it brings, and the vibration that it brings into your house. When 9/11 happened, and there's people that had it on all the time, 24/7 around toddlers. Their toddlers have grown up to need psychological help. Not all that many. I have a 21-year-old, and he was working at a radio station when he was 17. And he had to leave because he was not raised with the news, you see. So every half an hour, it was doom and gloom, doom and gloom. And he would say to him, Mum, people are talking a different way. The older people are talking in a different way. It's really heavy, the vibe here. I can't really handle it. And instead of going, see you tomorrow, they'd be going, be safe. And Jack's going, yeah, of course I'm going to be safe, He had a struggle with it so much that he had to leave. It caused so much stress in his life, listening to that constant, all the time because he was in the radio station. It was just bang. It was there seeping into his pores that he needed to get away from it. And people who have done it for years, they just don't realise the bad effect that can have on their psyche. So I love, and said another thing, I love that you do the same thing and that you're a non-conformist person too, because we have to trust our gut instincts, don't we? And you obviously trust it.
Yeah, totally.
Kellyville's a long way from the ocean. For anybody that doesn't know, Kellyville is the western suburbs of Sydney. When I used to wag school, it used to take me, an hour and a half to get to the beach from the western suburbs of Sydney on public transport. So it's a long way. And I know there's bigger roads there now and they're a little bit faster, but still a long way from the ocean. So when did you build your boat? Was it in your back garden or was there somewhere a boat?
No. It was actually built in Queensland, and so I used to have to fly out pretty much every other weekend without fail. Get a flight and spend the Friday, Saturday, Sunday up there working on the boat, and then the final stages of training and stuff, that was all done here in Sydney. So I brought the boat down once it was completed, and I did all my rowing in around Pittwater and the Spit, around Clontarf. Oh, it was beautiful. I used to treat it as my Sydney weekender, I'd go on board and spend pretty much Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday on board, and then get off to come to work for, fill those work days up because I work for myself. So that was the other thing was I ran my own diary, and if I had worked in that Monday, Friday 9 to 5, then I couldn't have done what I did because they wouldn't have given me the time off that I required. So because I managed my own diary, I used to fill up those days and then just row around Sydney, spend time on the boat, get to know where everything was. So imagine scenarios of being upside down, capsized, everything's gone black, and just grabbing things. Okay, where's your head torch? Boom. Okay, where's your signaling mirror? Got it. Where's your grab bag? Got it. So I used to play these games with myself, pretending I was upside down and I couldn't see a thing. And so that was my preparation. And then there was other things that you can't practice for and you can't mimic and mock. So things like being in a cyclone and deploying your sea anchor or your drogue, there's storm strategies that we have. So when you get out there, no matter how prepared you think you are, or, you've ticked all these drills and all these boxes and stuff, there's so many things that you're still in a world of first. And, like my first cyclone was actually in the Pacific. So I got through 68 days across the Atlantic and didn't have to deploy any storm strategies at all. Whereas in the Pacific, I had 5 hurricanes, 4 cyclones, and I got very good at putting it in and putting it out and, deploying and retrieving. And every time you do it, your confidence grows. Like I remember the first time I had to deploy it, I went through it in my head. I laid it all out on the deck, made sure all the shackles are secured, made sure that, nothing was going to get tangled and everything else was stowed and stored. My seat was tied down, my oars were lashed to the deck, and, I had enough water to be locked up in my cabin for days. You got to prep, you got to think ahead for, you can't get out on deck because it's too rough. You can't make water because you got too much cloud cover, so you're not getting enough amps pumped into the batteries for you to run your electric water maker, which costs a lot in power. So you're just constantly ticking boxes and going through this little checklist. But, the first time I threw that drogue out and I didn't know what I was doing. I've seen it. Yeah, I've watched it on YouTube and, I had it all planned in my head. And as soon as I put it out and the boat just settled and, pulls you into the...
What's a drogue?
So a drogue is, say, 100 meters of line with 30 small cones spliced into the line, little canvas cones, and it basically just creates drag. So when you throw it in off the bow, it just settles your boat and holds it so that it's facing into the waves, so the waves break straight over you. And rather than you being beam on and being hit from the side, because that's when you're at high risk of capsizing. So you want to always have your bow into the conditions. And that's what the drogue does. It just held me straight in, and it was like, it just felt so calm and so stable, and I never came close to capsizing. So, I just thought, I'm not going to be a hero here and try and row through the storms. And, I was very conservative in those, whenever I felt like, man, if I was side on to this, I'd probably go over. I just put the drogue out because I didn't want the stress and the strain on my vessel of the capsize. And you've got fittings and fixtures, you've got aerials. So you try to eliminate, or I tried to eliminate those risks because at the end of the day, if anything breaks, I got to fix it. And I actually had a limited amount of knowledge with electricals. Electrics were always going to be my weak spot. So I did whatever I could to protect them. Everything for me was prevention is better than cure.
You still would have had to have learned though about, because I was going to ask you, you wouldn't have been able, you can't carry water. You'd have to be able to make water. Did you make the water from rainwater or from the sea? Like, is it some sort of recycling thing? And you'd have to learn.
Yeah.
You'd know about that. You'd have to learn about your sat nav system. You'd have to learn. So you've gone from a massage therapist, because I used to do that, to doing all this technical stuff. And technical stuff is sometimes a little bit. So
yeah.
I visualize you there, and I've seen, and it's not like you can tip. It's not like a kayak. I used to kayak a lot. It's not like you can tip yourself back up again and pick up a few things that have fallen out of it. You capsize your stuff, So how do you make water on a boat?
So I had an electric water maker on board. So basically it's a big straw that goes through a fitting in the hull, down into the ocean, and it sucks it up. So it's got a pump that sucks the water up through a series of membranes, and then it spits out the desalted water into a container, and the brine goes back into the sea. So I could make about 4.5-5 litres an hour, but it cost 4 amps. So, basically you just turn it on with a switch, but it costs 4 amps of power. And on cloudy days, or if I had consecutive cloudy days, I wouldn't generate enough power into the batteries to operate it. So I had a handheld as well, a handheld water maker, which I was the pump, basically. You'd have a big arm and you'd just be levering and pumping away. So at the end of an 11-hour rowing shift, I would have to supplement my water by hand pumping my water. Not the nicest way to finish a shift, but, it's water is your number one. And it could also be the be-all and end-all. If those water makers broke and I could not revive them, couldn't fix them, that could mean Mayday. That could really mean that you've got to put your hand up and say, I'm done, because, without water, we die. We dehydrate very quickly out there, and you go downhill very quick when you dehydrate. So water was number one. And if it meant taking a couple of hours off the oars to pump, that's what I had to do.
And I imagine you would have to know about tides as well, and how the ocean works, so that, because I imagined if you crash out and you go to sleep at night, there'd have to be something happening within the boat for you not to be drifting back the way you'd rode. Otherwise, that'd really suck, You'd have to make sure you're still going in the right direction so that you can trust that you can actually have a snooze. And after rowing for all that time, my next question to that is, did you, apart from, I saw that you have like freeze-dried food like an astronaut, do you have like supplements? Is the food like heavily protein laden for your muscles? So yeah, there you go. I'll stop there. I'll let you answer all that. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
Michelle.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. I appreciate totally. People they can't fathom how you survive out there on something so small.
Yeah.
So yeah, my meals were dehydrated. I got, most of mine were meat for the protein. I had teriyaki beef, Moroccan pork with couscous. I had spaghetti bolognese, beef teriyaki, beef and black bean, green curry chicken. Like, it's
add water
quite gourmet. You basically just boil the water. Yes. Yep. Boil your water, add 300 mils, give it a stir, and then just eat mush from bag. That's kind of how it is. But it's tasty, and I had it
better.
Pardon?
Like those cup of soup things, but much better.
Yeah. And then of course you've got protein powder. I had supplements, hydration powders, energy gels, and a nice stash of chocolates, muesli bars, jars of Nutella, peanut butter, Uncle Toby's oats. So you have a lot of that, but I actually underestimated the need, and I ran out of my last chocolate bar by day 180, all gone. No more chocolate muesli bars, no more peanut butter, Nutella, everything gone. All I had was protein powder and dehydrated meals. So I was having like lamb casserole for breakfast.
You would have had to have, I imagine, did you have like a nutritionist that you worked with to work out the right amount of meals and the right amount of calories for you to actually survive? So you had the right amount of everything going into your body, because your body's obviously, it's a tool that you're using, and you have to fuel your body. You would have had to fuel your body really correctly and been really aware of all that before you jumped in the water.
Yeah, I used the million meter. I did a world record before the Atlantic. So because I was not a rower, I had to learn how to row. So I did the world record, which meant in the training program, A, it taught me how to row. B, it got my body prepared for long distance stamina endurance. So, your body has to go through adaptations to become, you're either a sprinter or you're the long distance stamina endurance Clyde horse kind of body. Well, I was more the sprinter. So I went through the program to do the million meter to tick all these other boxes, and plus to build some kind of a profile to gain credibility, because you're asking sponsors to come in and help out. And they say, well, who are you and what have you done? So I was nobody, and I had done nothing. So I thought I better go and do this world record. And in that 6-month program, that's where I also learned my nutritional needs. So I knew that I had to eat about 5,500 calories per day, and I had to have about 40 grams of carbohydrates every 3 hours. I knew that I had to have 500 mils of liquid every hour, and an extra 100 mils for every degree above 22 degrees. So it was very technical, very scientific. And, thanks to the million meter, the world record that I went for, I learned so much about nutrition and the importance of keeping the calorie intake, because, you hit a wall and it's very hard to come back when you go into a deficit, particularly in these events, because you're not having rest and recovery. You are rowing every single day, 11 to 12 hours. Like that's just what your job is out there. So, thanks to the world record, I learned loads about my requirements, and I just stuck to that. It worked then. So I probably ate a little bit more while I was actually rowing out in the elements. So I would have been eating between 5,500 and 6,500 calories per day, and you still lose 19 kilos. It's a great weight loss program, girls. Sign up.
Very lean and fit at the same time, and you'd be very lean and fit going in as well. So did you?
No, I put on 10 kilos. So intentionally, I put on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea, isn't it? Because if you were too lean and you lost all that weight, you'd be weak.
Because your body eats muscle. It'll go to muscle for fuel. So that's why I put on the extra, so that I could maintain my muscle mass for as long as possible.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the question now, toileting. So how do you go to the toilet? How do you do a wee and how do you do a poo, and what happens with it? And I would imagine, because you were so regimented with when you ate, when you drank and all that, it was all part of the process of rowing. You'd row for a certain amount, you'd break, you'd do your things, that your body would also be working quite like a machine, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like a well-oiled machine. Clockwork. I'm clockwork. I was the toilet is a bucket and chuck it. It was my most favorite piece of equipment because it didn't require electricity. It didn't have anything mechanical, couldn't break. Not
a plastic one.
Yeah, I sampled. There I was in Bunnings sampling all the buckets on option on. normal, right? In the middle of the aisle to be sitting on it, putting a little bit of weight through it. Ah, no, that one's too flimsy. Ah, no, that one's too sharp around the rim. Ah, no, this one's just right. I did do the sampling pre, and then you treat your bucket like gold because you don't want to lose him overboard. So you tie him off with a lanyard onto the boat so that if you do let it go, we can retrieve it. So yeah, bucket and chuck it. And yeah, I have no digestive issues ever. I always say I've got a cast iron stomach, like I can eat anything, and I'm very robust. I pride myself on that. So the fact that I was living off packet foods, I had nothing fresh for 8 months. It was all packet food. And I still had no digestive issues ever. I went to the toilet every day, never ever was I constipated, never did I get the runs, nothing. So thank you. Again, I praise my body. Every day I used to say thank you. And like with the real genuine sincerity and meaning, I used to say thank you so much, body, for letting me do this every day. You let me hammer you, 10 or 12 hours a day in, day out, without rest. And I was never injured, never sore. I had no sprains or strains, no, the typical things that rowers will suffer are blisters and torn calluses, sores on their bottom, friction sores, chafing from, just doing this action over and over. So the lines or the seams of their clothes will chafe. They will suffer with scalding, burns from hot water as they pour their water from the canister. So I sort of looked at all the things that do commonly go wrong. They get ITB syndrome, they have lower back pain. And I thought, how can I prevent all of that? And it was in my preparation. So my Tony, who wrote my program in like on land, my gym-based program, he nailed it. It was A1. And he got me, hanging, doing a lot of like static hanging. He said, go join a climbing gym and start climbing and just get used to loading up all these tendons, overload them so much so that when you're now rowing and just gripping the oar, it's nothing. That load will be nothing compared to hauling your fat ass up a wall, So I did all these.
Yes, isn't it? And toughening your head.
Yes. Yeah. So, we did all these non-conventional things in the lead up to, and, if I was going to do another ocean, I wouldn't change a thing. In my prep, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd do it all again because it was absolutely perfect. And again, thank you for letting me do this. That was important to me. Every day I'd get in my cabin at the end of the day and I would say, body, what do you need from me today? And I'd take a moment and it would respond. Can you just release through the elbow? Can you just rub my left Achilles? Can you just release that little bit there in my shoulder blade? Lay on a ball. I had a series of balls, tennis balls and golf balls and bands as my rehab in my cabin. So I would just attend to it every day. And again, my motto was prevention is better than cure. And it worked, this is what I also say, just raise your conscious awareness of what is going on, right? You know better than anybody. And you can go and sit in front of a doctor and say, it feels like this, this, and this. Well, I'm sorry, you know better than he does. And if you take the time out and you put the trust in what's going on and how if you were honest about, we all know what we need, right? We all know if we need more hydration. We know if we need to up our nutrition. We know if we need to cut out the drink, the alcohol, the booze, the junk, the cigarettes. And if you just honor that, man, everything just ticks over nicely.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It would have taken a lot of determination. You're obviously a very determined woman, and a lot of laser focus to be focused on everything that is involved in you jumping in the ocean by yourself, And you also would have had in sport, because this is sport, women are never as supported as men. How did you find getting your support? I imagine, because it's all imagining, but now I'm learning so much more. You would have had to have a team or a person on land that was paying attention to where you were at any one time. I would, for them to go and sleep for 8 hours, and in that 8 hour period of time for something crap to happen to you, that was obviously not an option. So you would have had to have had someone on land that you really trusted that had your back if anything went on. So how did you get around all that? I keep coming back to a massage therapist who's really fit, who did triathlons, to this amazing world champion who learned all this different stuff way out of your comfort zone. You would have had to have found everything and everybody that you needed, researched it all. I'm just like in awe of the determination. I'm a pretty determined person myself, but you, like my new friend, Michelle, and it's so inspiring to just just matter of factly go, yeah, I did this and I did this and it. But when you nut it down, the focus and the determination and the mindset that you had to continue to move forward. And obviously, you were interested in what you were doing, but you would have had to have learned so much and trusted that everything was absolutely right. It's amazing.
Yeah. When you go behind the scenes of this all coming together, it is a collaboration of very carefully selected, very small crew on the ground. And I chose all of them personally. I picked up the phone. They didn't know me from a bar of soap. I chose them for their expertise, for their credentials, what they'd done in the past. And I made the call and just, I said, I'm Michelle Lee. I'm about to row across the Pacific Ocean. And, for my weather router, he was the most important man in my life. And if I was only allowed to make one phone call and speak to one person, it would have been to Roger. So he was my ears and my eyes of what direction to row today, based on currents, based on wind, based on what was coming. So I basically just did whatever Rog told me, and that's a new experience, being told what to do. But Roger was a major piece of the ground support, and then also a small handful of friends who they all knew when I'd call you, and they couldn't call me. I had to call them, but they all knew, don't tell me one piece of news item. I don't want to know any headlines. I don't want to know any deaths, births, or marriages, nothing. So, and they were like part of my morale boosting, and different people serve different purposes as well. Like when you needed to be boosted, there were certain people I knew not to speak to. They'd rather see me just get airlifted and saved, and you can let this all be over in a jiffy. If you just put your hand up, we can get you the help. You can be airlifted out of there, or wait for the commercial vessel to come by to collect you. And then there's other people that are just like, no, fuck no. Pull your head out of your ass, get out there on deck and do what you wanted to do. So you sort of chose who you needed to talk to for what purpose, because everybody's got such different personalities, and they read things very differently. So I relied on those a lot, but they were a very small circle of people whom I contacted. And I lost people on the way as well. So in my preparation, because of my lack of compliance, I actually had my first doctor that I chose and my first safety officer. Now, I chose them very carefully, very consciously, and with a lot of intention for who they were, what they've done, and, their regard throughout industry, etc. And they both pulled the pin very close to my start line because I refused to get the jab. So, these were things that, that little red carpet getting pulled from underneath you. And I thought, okay, we're not in alignment with each other. So it's a natural falling away of, and you've just got to surrender to it and accept it and go, okay, right, dust yourself off, move on, find somebody else. They just weren't the right fit in the puzzle. So a lot of this stuff happened on the way, but again, I think it was all essential as the journey, because that is also resilient building, every time you overcome. And that's what I got out of the book. Remember, I read Rel Savage, Everything That Went Wrong and She Triumphed. That's her raising the bar and the ceiling every time you have a yes moment. And I feel it was necessary for me to go through that. because then in the moments of struggle, when you're out there, it's those moments that you can recall and you say, well, hang on, I know that I'm resilient. I know that I can weave my way over these obstacles. And it was essential. But my support crew, you can't underestimate what they did, and I would not have made it without them. So to say it was solo and unassisted seems incorrect to me, because what they did for me while I was out there, and even in the lead up to, like my boat builder, Joe, he let me just come and go from the workshop. He was always there to guide me when I had to make another hole in the boat, drill something, take something off, put something on. Joe was so patient with me. Sometimes he'd have to convince me that this is a better way, Michelle. I'm like, yeah, but you're putting another hole in my boat, and he was always right. But, it's these people who come along for the journey and believe in you, that you rely on when you're out there, when your self-belief might be slipping a little bit, and you just have to make that call to the right person, and you're like, all right, thanks. I needed to hear that, So you just can never underestimate your support team.
And did you use your support team, was it mainly you trusted on those down days that you may have had, the people that had been in the industry that were there to support you? Did you, because sometimes we have friends that have known us for a long time, and they too, we can reach out to them, because you mentioned friends, and I wondered if, but then sometimes our friends just want to save us. So we do know the ones that are like, no, I'm sitting here crying in the bath now. I just need you, don't tell me to quit, because I'm not going to quit. I just need you. And they know you well enough to not have the quit talk with you, because they know you're not a quitter. Did you lose any personal friends along the way? Did anybody ever cross the line with you?
No. So by now, at this stage in my life, and my circle is quite small anyway, they now know me well enough, and it's that mutual understanding. I've got it all sorted now by 50, and several expeditions, I suppose, down the track. I've gotten a little team, and I sort of know these ones will have my back no matter what I choose to do. They will always be on my journey with me. You know what I mean?
And so it's your tribe.
Yes, my tribe. Yeah.
Yeah. We have our tribe with us, and it's not always the people that we think, like it's not always girlfriends, or friends along the way. It's people that we pick up that are simpatico with us, with our life journey, that you've found, and you found your tribe that are going to always be there for you, and lift you up when needed, or that you can lift up when's needed as well, and doing what you do, that's like, it's so incredibly important. That I read something, there was something about day 46 that you said that was your worst day ever. Would you like to tell us about that day?
Yeah, on the Atlantic in my diary, I wrote worst day ever, exclamation mark, and it was a day where everything felt like it was everything, just little things were starting to pile up. And, I'd had my foot steering fell apart. I had to rebuild my foot steering. I had an earache. I had a toothache. I also discovered that I'd run out of my Nutella stash came to an end on day 46.
The addictive, so that'd be sad.
And, it just felt like, and the wind was howling for days. And that is actually quite unnerving and very unsettling. And it just felt like everything on this day had just, one more thing, just one tiny thing had to happen. And I was a basket case. I lost my shit that day. And it wasn't until the next day, you get through it and you wake up. Yes, the sun comes out. I always say, tomorrow is another chance to get it right. That's my say. I say that every night before I go to bed. Tell my flatmate, and tomorrow is another day to get it right, another chance. So I had that talk with myself, and I realized that it wasn't really that bad, right? I was being a drama queen, and something didn't feel right all day, something really unsettling in my gut. And I'm like, what is this? What's going on? when I reread my diary, or I went to do my diary entry for day 47, I looked at day 46, and that worst day ever, exclamation mark, that's when I thought, I got to get rid of it. This is how powerful your words are and your language. And I had to scribble it out because I thought, it wasn't your worst day ever. Like, that's been a drama queen and you were just being a bit over the top. You know, you need to get over yourself. As soon as I scrubbed that out, calm, peace, settlement came over me. So you're just constantly learning things, life lessons like that, and how important your not only spoken word is, but your written word and the vibration. It's a vibration, what it gives off. And then actually on the Pacific Road, my listening material, I had the book, The Hidden Messages in Water by Masaru Emoto, a Japanese guy who studies the vibration of water when exposed to words. So he literally does, and you can see the crystals, and he and photographs what crystal formation, and any water vessel that was exposed to hate words, anger, rage, whatever, formed revolting, broken crystals. Anything with vibrations of joy, gratitude, appreciation were the most beautiful shapes, love, and they were consistent, absolutely consistent. So I was listening to that while I'm rowing, while I'm surrounded by water. Our bodies are 70 or 80% water. I'm in a body of water, the world's biggest body of water. Listening to this, I'm just goosebumping from head to toe constantly. Got to hear that again. I'm hitting replay. And it's these little things that just help raise your own conscious awareness. So we are constantly evolving and changing, and we've got opportunity to grow all the time. So, I don't get it right all the time. I don't get it right every day. And there's, that's the thing. The beauty of it is tomorrow is another chance. This opportunity comes every single rising of the sun. We have an opportunity to step up and do better than yesterday, and don't beat yourself up and, talk yourself down. You just go, okay, well, I can do better than I did yesterday.
Oh, that's great. That's such good advice. Such good advice, such good motivation. I love that. I'm going to write that down as my mantra. Did you have mantras, like, apart from that, like when you woke up?
Yeah.
Did you have mindset mantras if you're having a moment to psych yourself out and psych yourself back in? Or, I saw that, I've seen photos of, your hands, and one of the chips got really calloused and split open, and that hurt. I have my fingers split open sometimes, and that hurts. So, never mind, having to row with these split hands and calluses. You must have had a certain amount of pain sometimes in your hands that you would have to tell your body to not feel, and certain mantras that kept you going.
Yeah. I always used to wonder before I started really pushing boundaries, does the mind rule the body or the body rule the mind? And those moments of, yes, my hands were quite shredded open on the Atlantic row. Every time I gripped the oars after a break, I would grit my teeth. Those initial contact was always so painful. And so I said there and then, I realized, thanks for showing me. I wondered, now you're really showing me. Yes, I know that the mind rules the body. So in those moments, I could have given up because it hurt so much. It really did. But my mind was like, don't you dare, and that's why I think we need the struggle as well, because the struggle is, to get to the start line is what gives you that real mongrel when things are getting tough out there, and, you're going to have some tough days. So you rely on all of those triumphs in the lead up to get you over those difficult times and those moments of despair or overwhelm, or when things just feel like everything's piling up on you. You remind yourself, come on, you can do this. You've overcome this, and bank them, put them in a little bank so that you can remind yourself and use it as your positive self-talk in those moments. But little mantras, mine is don't die wondering. Just say yes and don't die wondering. But every morning I would wake up saying, I'd open my hatch and I would just shout out, "Good morning, morning." So just start on that nice, happy, upbeat, no matter what you're feeling. And there were mornings when I would prefer to have stayed in bed and not got up at, the crack of dawn. But just start with that nice positive, good morning, morning, and of a night time. Gratitude. Thank you, body. Thank you, universe. Thanks for today. Thanks for giving me a wind or a current that was favorable. Thanks for giving me that pod of dolphins, or there's something you can find gratitude in every day. Thank you for this cup of tea. Oh my God, I do this every day. My poor flatmate has to hear me every day. I have a cup of tea and it's like, oh, that is a good cup of tea, right? But it's genuine. I seriously mean it. But my poor flatmate has to hear me do that every day. It can be as simple as a cup of tea. That's my point is, we can find joy, gratitude and whatnot in stuff that we do daily. And that's just a perfect way to start and finish your day in a vibration of joy, gratitude, love, appreciation. And the challenge is to hold that for the day,
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love, so I too start my day every day going outside and thanking the universe for a beautiful day and thanking the universe and being grateful for who I am and where I am and, that I'm strong and fit and that everything's going well. And I think that's key as we are in life, to being grateful and to, they say that I've seen this chart of vibrations, and when you're joy and love and happiness is like a high vibration, and the lower vibrations are when we're unhappy and negative, and joy is always a positive vibration.
You got to replace like your guilt, shame, rage, anger, hate. They're the ones that you need to, when you're feeling you're experiencing those, try to switch it straight away. Try and think of those moments, relive a moment where you were in joy, love, peace, gratitude, appreciation. And, this is what the challenge is of it throughout your day, because people come in and out of your life, that annoy you or tick you off or, and it's looking at that as an opportunity. This is what I do. I just think, okay, well, here's an opportunity for me to step out of that as quickly as I can, Well,
absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you're a person that is in a low vibrating place, it can cause sickness and illness in the body. If you're constantly, if you let yourself be stressed, if you let yourself, often I think people, they get affected by other people's attitudes or other people's words to them. And it's kind of, you have to stop yourself, like you said, and it's like, well, it's not my opinion. That's how you're feeling, and you're projecting that onto me, and it's actually got nothing to do with me. This is your vibe. So you take your vibe, I'll take my happy joy self, and I'll just go wandering on my way. And I won't ignore you. I'll acknowledge that, this is how you feel right now, but I'm going to leave it with you. And you can keep that to yourself, or you can have a bit of my joy, and that might, help you elevate. And you're quite right. It does. It makes a huge difference. I think sometimes we have people around us that are close to us in our family lives that are low vibrating people. Sometimes they can bring us down, and we have to be really aware of that. And like they say, I'm a fan of culling every now and again. You cull, or you remove them from your life, and if they're really close to you and they're vibrating low all the time, and it's actually affecting you as a person, they need to go. It's kind of what I think the main reason why I divorced my husband. Because he was vibrating low every single day, and it didn't matter what I did to actually try and raise his vibration. Didn't matter what I achieved, anything. He just stayed low, and he was happy being that person. It was like, I'm just not happy. The vibe in our house is bad, mate. You don't visit us anymore because the house is full of your negativity, and you're not moving forward. So now my life is full of positivity, and it's full of me and my joy and who I want to be. And it's important, I think, that we sometimes have to make those big decisions, especially when we get older, to choose us, to choose what we were to do. You made the choice to choose you and to choose what you wanted to do. And that's amazing. And you've obviously done a lot for yourself. And I'm sure everybody that listens to you feels incredibly uplifted and joyous and determined, and wanting to maybe not jump in the water, but certainly go and achieve the things that they need to achieve in life, because you're so inspirational to listen to, which is amazing. So I thank you for
thank you.
that they're talking about today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Yeah, that's what I want to ask you about. You mentioned dolphins and whales and stuff. You must have seen some amazing aquatic life out there on your journey and been at one with whales and with dolphins. That must have been just gobsmacking to experience.
Yeah, I'd say, and that is the privilege of what I have done, because people will never know it in their lifetime. Do you know what I mean? Like the sense of awe in seeing a pod of dolphins, or just the fish swimming under your boat, and everybody swimming in harmony together with each other until the sun goes down, right? Then all hell breaks loose. But, you know, when the turtle turns up, and it's like everything that was under my boat would come rushing out. It was like they just rolled the red carpet out. Boys, the turtle's in town, you know. And they'd all come and gather around the turtle. I realized what they're doing is they're all, you know, cleaning his back and whatnot, and eating the barnacles off him. But it was literally like I'm witnessing this rock star, this rolled up, and everybody has to come out and greet him. And, you know, it was like they're in the mosh pit with him. And, you know, stuff. I had all these stories going on in my head, what was going on there. Yeah. And then, you know, like full moons, uninterrupted rainbows from end to end. And the sky, the night sky, like I would open my cabin and look up and just go, oh, wow. I had so many oh, wow moments over and over again. So my tips for everybody is to find awe in your day. Have some awe. It's just, I reckon that's healing, man. That's like healing vibrations, you know. And to, you know, use visualization, use this to get you well as well. You know, I had nothing else to rely on. I had to have a trust and a knowing that I have the power to create either good vibes, bad vibes, health, wellness, illness. You have the power to create all of those. So yeah, I love to encourage people to challenge that, try it, change your vibration, change your attitude, change your life.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an absolute joy meeting you and listening to your story. I could listen to you for hours and hours and hours. It's been amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so humbled that you've shared the journey with me, and really, really stoked to have spoken with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, and thanks, Ray, for the connection, and thanks to your audience as well. Much appreciated. See you soon.
Thank you.